welcome to everybody. So it's my absolute pleasure to talk to you for the next 40 minutes or so. And we're going to be talking about specifically DEX and how we can leverage the telemetry that we capture within DEX to surface insights and issues and ultimately solve problems with automation. So yeah, brief intro to myself. I'm Director of Product Management and I lead our Ivanti neurons for DEX. So for the structure of this session, we have a few slides to go through really just to set the scenes. And then we are going to be hands-on in demo in the product. So if you have any questions, ask as we go along. But without further ado, let's go and start by having a review of the telemetry that we have available from a DEX perspective. So first of all, this is quite a busy slide, but really this is talking all about the different types of data that we collect. And really it starts with discovery. So discovery is a cornerstone of our DEX capabilities. And once you've identified the devices and assets that are out there, the next thing that's going to happen is you're going to be performing inventory on those devices. So there are thousands of data points that we collect through the inventory engine. And augmenting that is the ability to connect into third-party application ecosystems. So there's over 40 connectors available as part of that. So all of this data goes through our normalization and reconciliation engine on the platform. And there it exists on the platform in terms of devices, in terms of the people, the end users, and in terms of the installed software. So that is really the foundational aspect of the data that we're going to talk about. Now, sitting on top of that is our real-time edge intelligence data. Now, this operates in the here and now. This is based on MQTT. It's bringing in real-time information. It can trend information over time on the edge. And really what this is all about, it's about collecting the individual data points. If we think about things like internet latency, so the actual latency score is kind of a key component of that sensor, but it's around trying to answer the underlying business question. So along with the internet latency, it's important to have things like what network were you connected to at the time, what was the signal strength on the Wi-Fi, and so really it brings that information together, and the sensor is taking those individual points in a very light way, bring them together in the here and now, and then bringing those back into the platform. So then on the right-hand side, we're looking at the consuming features, and we'll double click on these as we go. But really we have the dashboards, the edge intelligence, and this is really about taking the quantitative view, looking at fleet-wide, looking at the results at scale. So this is really bringing that insight in, and we're going to use some of that to build the bots. And so really this is helping the analyst have that drill down experience. So you start off with a high level, kind of what's the problem? And then the drill down is really helping to answer the why is the problem. And then of course, we're going to get into well, what can we do about it? How do we fix it? Then we have the DEX score. So the DEX score is really sitting across four main areas. We'll double click on the DEX score as well, but this is looking at the device, it's looking at the security health, at the application health, and the service experience, both from a device and a people perspective. And one of the key things is when you're collecting so much data, the use of AI and ML to surface the key insights, to extract the key bits of information that you need from the raw data is a key part of this as well. And we're going to be spending the balance of the time really talking about the bots interface. And we're going to talk about it predominantly for its use in its ability to actually remediate or prevent issues from happening. But the other side of it is of course, we have the ability to collect additional information using bots, using PowerShell, using OS Query, using APIs. So again, that's a supplemental source of data collection as well. So we can really categorize the data we collect into four main areas. And we're going to split that down the middle into quantitative and qualitative telemetry. So first of all, talking about the empirical data, this is really the machine level data that we're collecting, where we can think about things like login times, CPU consumption, antivirus status, all of that information that can tell us empirically what's happening on a device, what type of issues that we know factually the user's experiencing. And this really starts off at the quantitative view. So the key experiences here are going to be the landing page. Sri talked about that, of course, in the opening keynote. We'll have a look at that. And then edge intelligence as well is really where you're going to go to start to dig in more detail and start to have that drill down experience as well. Now, as we get to the drill down experience, either from the homepage, the landing page, or from Edge Intelligence, this is where you're starting to answer the questions, the why behind it. And this is where you really get that qualitative view from a data perspective. The CPU usage is high because this application on this device is running at a consistently high level, for example. So the next category of data is around the voice of the employee. And this is a really important aspect of DEX as well, because again, the empirical measurements on their own will tell part of the story, but you really only tell the fuller picture if you can actually understand the impact of the user. What is there? How do you measure those individual facets of IT that people use in their day-to-day existence with their tools and technology that we provide? And so really this comes down to the ability to poll users, get a rating, what's your experience with your device, what's experience with this application, what is the experience users are having at scale with their service management. And so this is really giving the high level view, the mile high view of the numbers, so you can understand the top level trends. But when you start to dig in on that one, okay, you've had a bad experience with your device. Why is it? That's where you're getting the context behind it. So again, this is where we can provide additional contextual drill down surveys, and we'll have a look at these as we go in as well. Okay, so from a DEX score perspective, again, just double clicking on the data points that we have behind there. So again, from a device perspective, we're really looking at anomaly detection on devices here. So when we're looking at things that impact the DEX score, we're looking at device health. So this is taking into account a number of key indicators across the device. We're also looking at the security status, the application status. The key thing is with these algorithms, though, is that these are really helping to surface key insights by looking at anomalies that occurred on this device. So where we have a device that's running abnormally, these are going to be really a call to action. So when we look at remediation potential, when we see these types of issues bubbling up, this is going to be one of the key areas which we can use in terms of determining good bots that are going to be able to do some deeper levels of analysis to figure out the whys behind those data. So we'll have a look at that example as we move on. So when it comes to resolving problems with automation, one of our key philosophies from a DEX perspective is really our emphasis that prevention and remediation should be a really important part of the overall DEX strategy. And the way we look at it is like anything else, there's not a silver bullet. It's really all about an in-depth solution. And again, it's quite a complicated diagram, but if we just work our way from left to right, we start out with the user, and what is the first thing that we can be looking at to have the biggest impact on the user's experience. So way before the user starts logging tickets with a service desk and everything like that, the very first opportunity is to shape the user's digital experience, to set the desired state, to put appropriate experience, cyber hygiene guardrails in place to reduce the cross-section for that user having experience issues. So again, there's multiple technologies that we have in the stack that are helping to do that. You can do some of that with bots, making sure users have the required map drives, required variables, things like that. But then we also have our UWM capabilities, application control, environment management, performance management, insulating the user against performance issues. We have patch, which is helping users be compliant. Effective cyber hygiene is going to reduce the likelihood of security issues to happen. You have MDM setting that policy perspective, and software distribution, making sure people have the right tools they need to do their job contextually. And then we move into preventive maintenance. So we're going to touch on a lot of preventive maintenance today, and this is really how we can identify things happening early. Think things like running low on disk space over time. There's an opportunity to address that before it becomes symptomatic, before it disrupts the user. So this is why this is really categorized as proactive things that we can do. Then we move on to proactive automation. And this can be, again, the survey capability, being able to measure those different facets of IT, identify digital disruption that's affecting users, but the user hasn't got as far as the service desk with it yet. But we can even use it to deliver ambient experiences. So, for example, you visit an office for the first time that you're not visited before. Automation might interact with you via Teams and offer you a site map or something like that. So again, it's not necessarily all about healing issues. We can also use automation for other means as well. And then we get into the realms where a user's got a problem, And now the goal flips between the proactive nature back to how can we get the user back to productivity as quickly as possible. So again, the first opportunity there is self-heal. This is where we can detect something's gone wrong. Let's fix it as quickly as possible. If we know it's impacted the user, then let's liaise with the user to let them know we fixed it. Or maybe we need the user's permission to do a more invasive remediation. Again, this is where the ability to display messages, the ability to send emails, the ability to have Teams interactions, the ability to get the user's permission makes this capability a lot more powerful. And then we have the ability to augment the analyst perspective. And we'll look at some examples here as we go. And this is really about changing a 25, 30-minute web session where the analyst is remote controlling the user's device, the user's sat there troubleshooting, twiddling their thumbs, into something where the analyst can go and click a button and it'll go and fix the issue in a few seconds, users back to productivity really quickly. So before we jump into the demo, this is really just a view of some of the common use cases that our customers use. And this is somewhat out of date. We constantly have new out-of-the-box bots, new capabilities coming in. But really, you can really divide the automation use cases between things that are benefiting cyber hygiene, making sure appropriate services are running, making sure AV is running and it's compliant, dealing with unexpected admin users. We'll look at a couple of these use cases. And then from a productivity remediation, again, there's an emphasis here on things that we can do from a preventative maintenance perspective. So looking at degrading batteries, dealing with them while the devices are still in warranty, dealing with large user profiles, dealing with disk space, and things like that as well. So with that said, let's abandon the slides for the moment and let's go and have a look at the product in action. So really the starting point, the landing page, which Sri demonstrated on the keynote. So again, as we load up the landing page, you can see we have a number of KPIs at the top up here. We also have a number of other elements in here as well that are talking to the overall health of the estate. But our starting point on this one is going to be this particular KPI at the top here, which is going to show devices that haven't rebooted in 30 days. So rebooting devices can be both a productivity play and a security and compliance play. One is to make sure that patches have applied properly. So many organizations look to have a reboot schedule of from a security angle, but also from a productivity perspective. Certain applications, especially if they've got particular problems, might consume more memory over time. So in general, you can maintain performance if you ensure that devices are rebooting at least relatively frequently, especially with laptops where people are inclined to close the lid. You can actually go for a surprisingly long time without a device being rebooted. So how can automation help? So what we're going to look at here is we're going to move into our bots. Now, our bots is based around a low-code, no-code interface. The start point when you go in, you're going to have the ability to go and create a bot. And when you create a bot, you can decide, am I going to create one that's going to run on a schedule, or am I going to run one that's human triggered? It's triggered by an action. Or I can go and choose to start between a template. And when you open a template, you can choose what type of trigger it's going to run as. And we categorize these templates between things that are going to prevent issues, the ability to self-heal issues, the ability to do outreach, the ability to go and human trigger. And we have some examples out of the box as well, just to show how to accomplish common goals that people will want to achieve when they're using these bots. But if we go and look at issue prevention, one of the ones we're going to look at here is one we have in early access, which is user deferrable reboot. So we can click and learn more. It's going to tell us about what it's going to do. We can go and click create. And this is going to open an out-of-the-box bot with some logic in. So initially, this probably looks a little bit complex, but the idea is you can actually look through and understand what's happening. We can annotate automatically what's happening. And what this has given us the ability to do is, first of all, poll the device's uptime. And based on the amount of time that the device has been turned on, if it's been up for more than 7 days, what we can do is see, have we already been down this path already? If we haven't, then what we're going to do is we're going to have a Teams interaction with the user, and we're going to let the user know, hey, your PC hasn't been restarted. It needs to be restarted, but you can defer it up to 2 days. Do you want to reboot it now, or do you want to reboot it later? If the user chooses to reboot it later, we're going to plant a flag on it and say, okay, please try and reboot it in the next 2 days. If it gets past this point, then we will do a reboot. And so we'll set some logic in there. If the user then reboots, then great, it'll come back up. So at the point when the bot next runs, what we're going to do, we're going to evaluate again. If the user's rebooted, great, we'll go in, we'll clear any flags, it's re-armed for the next time. If the user hasn't rebooted yet and it's exceeded 2 days, then we're going to go ahead and we're going to reboot the device, but we're going to give the user a chance to close their application, send them a message, and off they go. So again, this can be completely customized. There's a whole range of actions and different capabilities that we can do. So again, you're looking at a preformed bot from here. If I want to go and augment these things, if I want to go and find out what these things are doing, if I want to go and see what information is being returned, I can see the information in the right-hand side. I can search for, or I can explore the available stages. So we'll have a look in Edge Intelligence at all of the queries that are available, but all of these kind of teal blue colored items, we call them stages, and these are the things that are going and collecting that information in real time from devices. And then we have actions. So these actions are letting us orchestrate powerful remediation actions. So whether this is things like disk cleanups, whether it is things like manipulating files, manipulating folders, adding, deleting, changing registry keys, registry values, interacting with users, manipulating device drivers, isolating devices from network. So again, there's a whole manipulating processes, starting, stopping services. And then we have some common logic elements in here as well, to be able to filter results, to be able to loop results, to be able to interact with analysts, which we'll have a look at as well. We also have our interaction capabilities, as well as additional capabilities to go and do scripts where required. So let's go and have a look at this in action. I'm just going to quit out of here. I've already deployed this bot out. So if I go back to my screen here, and what we're going to do is identify this device here, use deferrable reboot. I'm going to go and open this a bot, and I'm going to go and run it on my device. So if I go and run this now, I can go and run this against my test device here, and we can see this running from an end user perspective. So this is now the end user device. And what this is doing in the background, this is going to go and trigger the bot to run. It's going to go and evaluate the uptime of this device. And we can see here we've had the dialogue within here. Now, if the user chooses to ignore this message, again, it's going to wait until its message times out, and then it's going to go and plant that key. So the user can't get out of this reboot requirement by ignoring the message. That's all handled within the logic. The user can click, I'll reboot later. If they click reboot now, it'll schedule a reboot. Reboot later, the user's got the message, and now that's now scheduled. So within 2 days, that will go ahead and perform the automated reboot. Okay, so going back to the next example we have here, if we go back to the home screen here, the next thing we're going to have a look at is the DEX score. So the organization-wide DEX score is looking across all my devices. It's categorizing them between devices that have a critical DEX score, devices that has a normal DEX score, and devices that have a caution. So what might we want to be able to do with these devices that have a critical DEX score? So what we can do is we can go to the devices view, and this is going to give me the ability to see all of those devices. Now, what I can do is I can go and explore all of those devices in here. I can see the different columns. If I want to, I can go and add additional columns within here to be able to help me slice and dice the data. But I can actually, if I want to, go and create a group of these devices. And once I've got the group, I can do different things. I could go and target a bot against a whole group. But what actually I've got the capability to do now is to select multiple devices, and I can go and run a bot against those multiple devices. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show an example. I'm just going to dismiss this and just go back to the home screen again, because my test device actually has a good DEX score. So I'm just going to go in and identify the devices in here. I'm going to just open this up, and what we will do in this example is the same flow that we would do if we were trying to investigate devices that had a poor DEX score. So of course we can go in and we can explore the devices manually and understand individually what's happening with those DEX score elements. But of course the benefit of using automation is that ability to remediate at scale. So I'm going to identify my device here. I'm just going to choose another device in here. So with the custom actions, one of the things we might want to do is to do a low DEX score survey. And if I go and run this, I can click run. It's going to go and start that survey running. So that action's been started. I can go and dismiss this. It's going to continue running in the background. It's going to bring the analyst updates as that progresses. But in the interim, I can go back and I can see I've already had a message here. So one of the things that we can actually do is to validate that low DEX score by doing an outreach to the user. So let's go and check in. So as a user of this device, we want to see what your experience has been like recently. Please choose from the following. It's good or it's bad. So when it comes to surveys, of course, this is something that we would probably do periodically on a device. But again, if you want to have it as more of a tactical tool to dig in when you think there's maybe a problem, maybe there's application errors. Again, all of this text is completely customizable. So you might end up having multiple campaigns that you can do to go and engage with the user. But the key thing that this provides the flexibility to do is to account for the full gamut, the full bell curve of user types that you're likely to experience when you're offering interactions. There's going to be maybe the technophobes out there who aren't going to appreciate pop-ups and they just always want to have a person help them through the issue. So you can provide the user up front the ability to go and create a support ticket, take advantage of the turnkey integration we have with Neurons for ITSM, for example, go and automatically create a ticket, push in all of the data, all of the diagnostic information you want to do behind the scenes, so the analyst is fully armed with what it is that they need to go and resolve. You've also got the power users who are maybe they've already created a ticket. Maybe they know what they need to do to fix it. They don't need any extra information. So they've got the ability to opt out of that as well. And then you've got the ability to go and do something like run diagnostics. So I'm going to click that button now. And this is going to take advantage of, again, that sensor array that we've got to go and perform a selection of different diagnostics. So again, how you package up the interaction with the end user, completely customizable. In this case, going off and doing some diagnostics for things like the CPU usage, again, high uptime, being able to look at some of the common touch points that the user is likely to experience DEX issues in, that are also areas that we look at from a DEX score perspective. So again, where these are actionable, we can contextually offer the user inline remediation abilities for those. So, from a high uptime, do you want to reboot now? I'll reboot later. Free disk space, do you want some help cleaning it up, where we might want to identify good candidates for deletion, offer the user to clear the downloads or compress content, things like that. And again, memory usage, again, there might be an opportunity to reclaim some memory there by performing a reboot as well. So that's really that example. Again, the possibilities are nearly endless with that one. But that is really, again, one of the particular campaigns that you might look to do from devices that are experiencing a low DEX score. Now, that's a tactical response to devices with low DEX score. What if you want to automate that without having to click through the dashboard? So, of course, you can create device groupings based on DEX score banding. So you could have that happen completely automatically without having to click in and go through the dashboard. But just know that as you're experiencing the dashboard, if you click into any of these, you've got that ability to go and create a group. So another example in there would be the upcoming end of life. Again, what you want to do with software that's end of life, you probably want to identify a replacement, find out if users are still using it. That could be a great campaign. Or just remove the application if you know that it's something maybe that shouldn't be used. So we'll touch on that one again as we go. So that's really the homepage and some of the key data elements that we have across there. We're going to shift gears now and look in Edge Intelligence. So Edge Intelligence is really providing that real-time look of, here's all my devices, here's where they are in the world, here's a list of information. Of course, I can dismiss that and get to kind of top-level sensors that I have in here. So again, we have numerous sensors that are categorized under things that are related to security or cyber hygiene, things that are related to the digital experience or the health of the device, and things that are more inventory orientated. So let's look at a couple of examples. The first one might be local admin users. So again, with local admin users, this is going to surface all of the local admin accounts that we see across the devices. So again, many organizations will centralize on having approved local admin accounts on devices that are maybe used for managing that device. And this is a place where you can quickly get some visibility and see, does that kind of match your expectations, or are there exceptions within there? Again, you can drill in and start to get more details of those if you wish, but this is an indicator in this case that there's probably something that we want to do to be able to automate the cleanup of that. So this is an example where I can go into bots. and I can look at the available out of the box contents. And we actually have a bot which is geared towards being able to resolve that. So if I go, for example, and have a look in self heal, we have the ability to remove unexpected users from local admins. So again, I can learn more about that one. I can go and create. And what this is going to do, it's going to look across local admins. So again, when we're using telemetry to shape these bots, we can go and preview these things live. So I can go and click run preview. It's going to go out to my designated group or all devices, and it's going to give me back a tabular view of what we just saw in Edge Intelligence. So, in this case, I can go and identify that I've got an account here called malicious, which is unexpected, something that I probably don't want to be on that device. I'm going to filter through, and now what I can do on here is I can go and loop through any results I've found. So what I might want to do is to add in any accounts in here that are that I'm okay with being there. But then I can go and automatically remove that account from the local admins. So once I go save and run that bot, it's going to just automatically run according to my schedule, identify, clear out any results, and then give me that ability to make sure that I have automation protecting me, that if I have either accounts left around just from poor cyber hygiene where I've gone in and created something to test or to support something, or it's been from nefarious means been put there. So that's one example. So another example, if we go back to Edge Intelligence, would be when it comes to user profile. So I'm going to click on user profile size. And typically this is a useful sensor if you're looking at disk space consumption and you want to kind of optimize the footprint on the disk. But there is actually a security angle to this one as well. And what I can do on the charts is I can flip it to the tabular view, and you'll see again some of the other information that comes back at the same time. So as well as telling me the device, the different usernames on there, and the size, which is all good information. I've also got this last used column, so I can reverse order that, and I can see here I've got a number of profiles that have been lying around for a number of years. And so if we think about what's stored in those profiles, is it in a device that's changed hands a number of times? I probably don't want that information lying around. So it's going to be a good practice, both from a disk space perspective and from a cyber hygiene perspective, to clear up those old profiles. So again, we can go back to our bots, we can go to our create bots, and we have within here that ability to go and remove, to have a look at aged profiles. So again, I could just do a report. From an issue prevention perspective, I can actually go and do a removal as well. So as with all of these things, when I'm building a bot, I can decide, do I want to take action, or do I maybe just want to do a report first? So in this case, very similar, only 3 stages, just like the remove users from the local admins. We're going to identify, because we have this little multiple moniker on it, it means that this can return multiple results. And then we just have this for each block, which is a special type of stage that we have within here. And this just takes all the complexity out of remediation. Rather than having to have complicated scripts that are doing for each looping, we can actually lift all of that logic out and just have it within this low code, no code workflow. If we decided that, well, actually, I'm not ready to go and remove it, I just want to, get that information. Well, of course, we can go and look in Edge Intelligence. But if we want to go and swap this out, for example, for an email report, I can just delete that one, for example. I'd come into here. I can go into email report instead. I can go and connect these stages together. In here, I can choose who's it going to go to, what's the subject going to be. I can edit the email body, and then I can choose what information do I want to include in there. So I want to include the username. I want to include the profile size in megabytes. I want to include the last write time on that one. I can add any other information from any other stages I want to add. Hit generate. It's going to give me the HTML to go loop through and create all of that information. Apply and close. And then I'm ready to go, and that will send an email to the designated. I can also use variables in there, so I can send that email to whoever triggers the bot if it's being launched interactively as well. So that just gives you an example how these things can easily be tailored. Okay, so that's another Edge Intelligence use case. If we go back and maybe just have a look at a couple of other capabilities we've got here, just keeping an eye on the clock. So again, in here, we a couple of other interesting things in here. We have TLS connections. This is going to look across all of the applications that are being used by users. It's going to look at the version of TLS that's being used. So this can be super interesting to go and dig in and see, are there any outdated protocols that are being used in here? So, TLS 1.2 is good. TLS SSL 2.0, I'm going to be very worried about. So, what am I going to want to do with that application is probably get rid of it or reconfigure it as quickly as possible. So that, that could be a good candidate for being able to uninstall that software. Another example might be looking at what cloud storage providers, or is everybody using the sanctioned enterprise approved cloud storage provider? So again, I can go and look at the results. These are building up in real time on here, but you could see again, there's a there's OneDrive in here. If I'm starting to see additional providers in there, again, they might be something that I want to automatically remove. The same thing is really, as we're, again, going back to the homepage again, the other items that we had on the bottom there are things like the software inventory. So again, when we're looking at upcoming end of life, if we go to the software inventory, there's information in there that not just software that's end of life, upcoming end of life, but also things like reclamation opportunities and things like that as well. So again, if we identify software that we want to remove, then that becomes a good use case again for something that we might tackle from an automation perspective. So shifting gears, we've looked at some examples of preventative bots, so bots that are going to prevent issues from happening. We've looked at a survey, which is that interactive automation. Let's have a quick look at some of the human in the loop capabilities. So there's a couple of examples that we can show within here. The first one I'm going to show is if we just go into the context of a device. So again, this we're thinking now about an analyst who's troubleshooting an issue. Maybe the user has got a device, and we can actually use our example device here, and the user's having a problem getting to Ivanti.com. So again, this is something where we're going to jump in with some of the tools that we have in here. So maybe let's just see if we can actually ping the address. So we can maybe go where we can ping it. We can see that we're not getting any response back from the website. Okay, well, that's not necessarily an issue. It might just be ICMPs getting blocked. Then we might want to do an NS lookup on that one. And we might identify, so again, we're not getting any response back from there. Edge intelligence, by the way, would also show we could also use that from an internet latency to show reachability across different devices as well. But what we've found out is that, well, the address doesn't look right there. From this perspective, we've identified we've got some sort of DNS issue. The fact we haven't got a server and address probably means we've got a problem with the host file. So again, from a bot's perspective, having a bot here where you can actually go and clean the host file, let's go and run this remediation bot and we'll see what happens. That's going to go and run this. And what this is going to do is identify if the host file is non-standard. If it's non-standard, it's going to go and replace it. And then hopefully in a few seconds, that should complete. There we go. The action was successful. And let's go and rerun that action again. And let's see what happens. So run the NS lookup again. That's going to go and request it in real time from the device. And there we go. We've got a proper address. Hopefully now we can go and ping it, and we've been able to resolve that issue in one click. So that's an example of how long would that take an analyst to do through a web session, elevating Notepad, finding a problem, being able to do that in a few seconds is one example how we can accelerate that sort of use case as well. Now, another example is, when it comes to disk cleanups, again, the view from a disk automation perspective is that if we were to go and take a look at being able to clean a disk automatically. Again, we have an out-of-the-box bot in here that's going to help clean a disk automatically. So the key thing is to do it, to be able to clean up areas of the disk that aren't going to be of interest to the user. So being able to clean up temporary locations, do all of that automatically, but then being able to go and check and see, has that done the trick? Have we been able to reclaim enough disk space? If we have, then great, it's going to stop there. If we haven't and we've still got a problem, this is then where we can decide to interact with the user. So that's a key focus of bots, is deciding when to interact with the end user to be able to do more powerful remediations. So in this case, this is where you can engage with the user and say, we can do more advanced things. We can clean your downloads. We can do additional things in here. Again, you could bolt on additional capabilities in there to do more advanced cleanups. But occasionally, of course, a user might just run out of disk space extremely quickly. So it's going to be something where, an analyst is going to want to be able to take more immediate action and have a tactical response to be able to accelerate that from a help desk perspective in a more powerful way that's going to be kind of more targeted. So that's where something like a configurable disk clean is going to work. And this is where we can use a feature of bots called inputs. And this allows the content creator to be able to pass the analyst can actually pass information into the bot at the time when they run it. So this can be a drop-down list of things in here. So you're actually saying, okay, here's one bot, but it can do multiple things depending on the option you select. Or it could be a text input bot. So maybe I want to send a message out to everyone, but I want to decide what the message is at the time when I run the bot. So again, it gives the capability to be able to do either of those things. So that's one example. Now, we spoke a lot about the ability to uninstall software. So that is another example here. So I've got a bot here that is going to remove software from the device. In this one, I might do something like Notepad++. I'm just going to type Notepad. I can choose, do I want to report only or do I want to uninstall it? And I can go and click run. So the key thing when you're uninstalling software is every software is different. Some, if it's based on an MSI, it's easy to supply the silent flag and it can be removed silently. Other things are at the discretion of the developers. So this is the type of action that you want to test on the device first and make sure that it does perform silently. If it does, then it's something that you can go and run at scale. So that's what this flow lends itself to. So in this case, it's identified the application, it's identified that it's got an uninstall string. So if I want to go and run that in remove mode, I can go and do that and it will go and remove that from the device. Now, if I go and have a look at that bot, I go and have a look at uninstall here. We can see here that we've got uninstalled software. If we go and have a look what's happening under the hood, there's actually quite a lot going on. So what we have is this log message stage. If I go into the edit version, you can get a slightly better view of that one. So first of all, we're passing the information that the analyst typed in into app state. That's doing a partial match. And we're identifying whether it's found or not found. We're feeding that back to the analyst and those messages that you saw. Then for each bit of software that's found, we can use OS query. So OS query has it has a full schema of different capabilities which can surface rich insights. So that's a supplementary technology to the data that we already collect. And in this one, we're retrieving the uninstall string. And based on the success of that one, we can pass it into uninstall if the input is chosen for uninstall. And then we can handle all the possible outcomes of that one. So maybe it wasn't found, the uninstaller, maybe it's successful, but a reboot's needed, or maybe it's a success. So that's what our connection conditions let us do from a high level. So again, those different elements we spoke about before, the ability to look at end-of-life software, the ability to look at things from TLS or maybe cloud service providers you don't want. This is an example about how automation can be used as a tactical tool to do that either against a singular device or multiple as well. So with that said, let's go back in the remaining minutes and just have a quick recap in terms of the session. Hopefully that's provided an example of the different ways that we can use telemetry in order to inform some of the config creation, and would love to hear your feedback. And in fact, we actually have an open question out on our innovators.ivanti.com site. So if you're not a member, head over to that site and sign up. That's innovators.ivanti.com. And the open question that we have there is what bot ideas would solve a problem for your organization. And there's a couple of great reasons for heading there. One is you can see what other people are asking, what are the use cases as a source of inspiration. But second, we have a content team who are building out bots. And again, we're looking for ideas. We're looking at things that are going to move the needle. Hopefully what you've seen today is that we have a powerful set of functionality that can extend to different use cases, as well as lots more exciting things that are in the works. So again, that is going to be something that we can look over, and hopefully if it's something that we're able to deliver from an out of box, you'll see that appear as a template. So these things are appearing on a weekly basis. So please do head over and either ask a question on there or reach out to the product team or myself directly. Again, excited to understand what the opportunities are to be able to solve problems from that perspective as well. So really the final ask, if you like. So again, hopefully this has been useful, and hopefully if you're a user of our DEX solution, you find it useful as well. And so we would really massively appreciate you sharing your opinion and your review on Gartner Peer Insights. So I guess that the process behind this, if you're able to do so, you can scan the QR code. That's going to take you to the link, and the overall process there is that the name and company is anonymous. So Gartner do ask that you create an account to verify the identity behind it. If you use a company email, because Gartner will reject any reviews with a personal email, but the whole process should be done in about 10 minutes or so. So the questions there are an overall rating and some areas in there, such as lessons learned, product capabilities, service and support, and willingness to recommend. So from Gartner's perspective, a score 7 below, they'll take that as a not willing to recommend the product. So if you are willing to recommend us, which hopefully you are, then an 8 or higher will be brilliant. And Gartner do offer a $25 gift card or a donation to charity on that. So if you're able to support us in that, that would be hugely appreciated. But with that said, would like to thank you very much for the time.